Welcome to St. Augustine. I'm Derek Hankerson, and I will be taking you on a journey to learn more about this natural eco-tourist oasis and the role Africans played in the settling of St. Augustine. St. Augustine, our Spanish capital, is the oldest occupied European settlement in North America. Our settlement has survived such a long and glorious Southern history of exploration, defense, civil rights, and freedom, and settling the New World, or America. St. Augustine was settled by Spanish and African explorers. During that time, it was estimated that between 40 and 60 free and enslaved Africans settled in this area. I'm standing at Fort Mose. This very site is the location which protected the northern end of St. Augustine in 1738. Additionally, St. Augustine is one of the first free black settlements in North America and ultimately led to the first major defeat of the British during the bloody Battle of Fort Mose. Why is Fort Mose important? Fort Mose is important because many Africans earned their freedom by fighting in the militias and military 200 years before the Civil Rights Act. Fort Mose is one of 171 state parks that are operated and staffed by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and the Florida State Parks. What better way to visit Florida than by enjoying our parks and the great outdoors while learning the history of the Africans that played a significant role in its history, both as free and enslaved people.
Now I'd like to bring up St. Johns County Commissioner Cindy Stevenson.
The Armstrong area, or Sea Community, welcomes visitors from across the country to visit St. Johns County and take a ride on a section of the East Coast Greenways, Rails to Trails, and Sea Island Loop bike trails. Armstrong is a rural community that was settled by Africans. This community's foundation is based in faith and family, as it has been for over 100 years. The former Florida State Parks Director Don Fergione and State Park staff Mark Gibling have devoted countless hours to make this bike trail happen in Armstrong. In fact, the spot's Elton Armstrong, or Sea Community, held an East Coast Greenway's designation, and we were able to attend and capture the essence of that vision for the bike trails.
Thank you so much for all of you for attending this great event. It's very important to us, and it means a lot for us to be designated to the East Coast Greenway. For those of you who don't know, the East Coast Greenway is a system of trails that will eventually connect all the way from the Florida Keys all the way to Maine. So as you can imagine, that is a big and phenomenal deal.
When it comes to nature trails, off-road bicycling, and family fun, the biking community of Armstrong has it all. In this all-American community, heritage plays a large part of the common bond. What's unique about this community is that it was settled by African descendants known as Gullah Geechee. These descendants are primarily from the Atlantic Sea Islands and Low Country of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. They migrated and settled in Florida like others who led the way from the Carolinas' British chattel slave system and formed the first underground railroad south to Spanish Florida. Today, this same community is transitioning into a sustainable ecotourism site for St. Johns County and Florida through bike trails. This unique area combines bike, equestrian, walking trails, and a heritage and culture in a wonderful and peaceful natural setting. We sat down with St. Augustine Commissioner Nancy Sykes-Klein and asked her a few questions about the city's plan for addressing congestion and how cycling fits into the planning and the benefits of ecotourism in this area of St. Johns County.
Well, the TPO did do a master plan for the entire Northeast region, and it was really designed to build upon the bicycle study of St. Augustine. They basically took that model and they expanded it to the Northeast Florida region. So my hope for the future for us is that we all gain a great deal of connectivity among the different routes for bicycles. We have a lot of broken pieces to it. You know, we have a lot of areas that we go from a bike lane to, you know, to a parking space to nothing. And my desire would be to see moving forward that we have well-connected, safe travel routes for cyclists that are tourists and cyclists that are going to work or going to school. I would also like to see an attitude change or cultural shift for an acceptance of cyclists, and cycling is an important mode of travel, not just for tourism and for the future of wellness tourism.
These bike trails accentuate active lifestyles, parks, recreation, and ecotourism. The trails in St. Johns County interconnect to other Florida counties and extend to Maine. All three trails run through pristine agricultural and rural areas of the great state of Florida. Melinda Peoples, Executive Director of the Sea Community, shared her passion for Armstrong.
We're very excited about it, the trails and the possibility of economic development, wellness, health benefits, and great exercises on our bike.
Edith Murray Harris remembers Armstrong during its heyday and speaks of times past.
My family's been in Armstrong for over 100 years. One of my fondest memories would be going to collect our Christmas tree, to cut down our Christmas tree. And as I was walking today down the trail, I remember that so vividly because I said, oh, we're gonna come up on the trestle. And I was always afraid of the trestle. I would actually get on my knees and crawl across the trestle. And my older sisters and brothers, they would laugh, you know, and they would almost literally dance across. But I was so afraid of that little bit of water down there. But every year we went out, we found the tree that we liked, we cut the tree, and we would drag it back home. We didn't have transportation back then, but I remember him. He would come down the railroad track and he would have a big box sitting on his head, and that would be groceries for the week. And he would come in with the box on his head and come in, we knew we were gonna have oranges and those kinds of things.
Rails to trails are bike routes that were once railroad ties. Many residents of the Sea Community worked for Florida East Coast Railroad. They lived in Vermont Heights, Armstrong, and Hastings and took the train to and from work. The Rails to Trails bike routes connect at Interstate 95 in Vermont Heights and extend into Putnam County. The Sea Island Loop is the longest mapped circular route in Florida. It covers 260 miles through greatly varied historic parts of the state. The East Coast Greenways, with its collection of various bike trails, will be used for multiple purposes such as socializing, recreation, exercise, and transportation. All three trails afford families, individuals, and nature enthusiasts an opportunity to learn more about these rural communities while enjoying a relaxing ride in the great outdoors. During a recent conversation, Herb Hiller described the importance of the Armstrong connection to various bike trails. Herb currently serves as the Southeast Regional Program Consultant to the East Coast Greenway Alliance and was Florida Trail Advocate of the Year. Herb sat down with us and shared his views on these marvelous connections.
I can describe the East Coast Greenway as an organization that was founded 22 years ago, 1991, in New York City, by a group of people who thought it would be a wonderful idea to have a trail, an off-road paved trail. It would be safe and comfortable to ride between Key West, Florida and Calais, Maine, the top of Maine. And so, like many good ideas, they usually fall away. This one did not. These people woke up the next morning and thought it was still a good idea and worth working on. And so they began. It began in New England and New York, and it reached the South slowly. People look at our logo, which is of two pine trees, one pointing up and one pointing down. And if I'd been around, there would have been a pine tree and a palm tree. But we have to overcome a lot of mistakes they made 20 years ago. You get an idea and you say, I think I can do this. And you have the right mix of people with the right level of enthusiasm, and before it dissipates, you do it.
What does the designation of the Palatka-St. Augustine State Trail by the East Coast Greenways Alliance mean?
Well, it means in a significant way, we can pay attention to the trail because it's part of our obligation as a nonprofit to advance this trail for all kinds of non-motorized uses, for long distances, for short distances, for commuting, for holding hands, all of that kind of stuff. And now I really get an exceptional opportunity to work with the rural communities along this trail.
What is the significance of the overlap of the East Coast Greenways and the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor?
This overlap idea of the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor and the East Coast Greenway is a marvelous concept because the Gullah Geechee corridor needs recognition. It needs to provide maximum benefits for the communities that still have their integrity along that corridor. The Greenway provides recreation and opportunities for local economic development. So we literally create a system, a connected system, potentially from Palatka to Wilmington, that allows the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor to realize its full potential, while the Cultural Heritage Corridor allows the East Coast Greenway to maximize awareness. It's just brilliant.
How do you see the Palatka-St. Augustine State Trail benefiting the Sea community of Spuds, Elkton, and Armstrong?
Benefits to urban areas happen fairly quickly from trails because you have a lot of people who start riding the trail, looking around, and you see things, shops, you see restaurants, you see interesting sites that you want to visit that you don't see when you're driving an automobile. In a community like Spuds, Elkton, Armstrong, a trail is not for developing a rural site. Its value is for helping local people recognize that a lot of people will ride through the trail. This isn't urban development, this is rural development, and it has to remain in the hands of the people who grasp that these other visitors are going to come right through their community, probably know nothing about it, and you want them to do for you what you want done by their presence.
The state of Florida DEP and St. Johns County's parks play a huge role in enhancing and developing ecotourism projects such as the bike trails. These initiatives also assist to highlight interior Florida stories on culture and heritage, such as Fort Mose, which was settled by Africans. Fort Mose is the only state park site in St. Johns County that is informally partnered with both the National Park Service and the Department of Environmental Protection. The Armstrong community is uniquely positioned to build upon our rich African American history in Florida. As more and more domestic and international families travel together on vacation, places similar to St. Johns County will be a major ecotourism destination site. We heard from State Parks Director Don Forgione, who highlighted the importance of these unique African American communities.
I want to start off by thanking the community of Armstrong for welcoming us, not only here today, but welcoming the rest of Florida, the rest of the United States, the rest of the world to Armstrong, to your community, because y'all are on the map. We have 171 state parks. How many visitors do we have a year? 25 million visitors. That's more than the Magic Kingdom, Epcot, and Universal put together. Can you believe that? It's a huge amount of folks. And we're not only opening the doors, but we open the doors and we serve our visitors. We serve them because people need parks. People need to get out and recreate. You know, just because we grow up, it doesn't mean that we got to stop having fun. And that's one of my job responsibilities. I'm the fun meister for the state of Florida. It's not in my job description, but we're having fun. This is what we need to be doing. Adults also need to play. Just like children play and they learn, we need to come out and we need to trail and we need to experience our bodies and see how that feels. And look, I can't get over this part. I'm sitting there and looking that way. Doesn't that look like a cathedral? We have an opportunity to change lives, to change communities, because recreation does that. When you get away from your hectic life and you're cruising down here, this is somebody's church. That's somebody's church right here. That's somebody's church. And the fine church that I'm parked at, I appreciate y'all if y'all are in the audience from opening up your heart. So with 25 million visitors and 171 parks, we only have 1,000 employees. I know it sounds like a lot, but you stretch them over 67 counties, it's not a lot. It takes partnerships, and the number one partnership is really from the legislature. And Representative Hudson, I appreciate you and your leadership and funding us and giving us, Florida Park Service, an opportunity to maintain this year after year. The Florida Park Service has been around for 77 years. 77 years, that's a long time. We're a very old state agency. And I like to think we've been doing it right for a long time. So this will not only be a trail through the woods, it'll be the best trail through the best woods and through the best communities, linking communities and towns and the Gullah Geechee communities on the East Coast. I am so excited about that. And if you first time you've heard that word, Google it and check it out, because it's awesome. The Florida Park Service not only provides recreation and are stewards of the most pristine pieces of land in Florida, but we also are the stewards for cultural resources. We manage over 2,600 historic and archaeological sites in the state of Florida within the 171 state parks. So we do trails and historic sites and parks and recreation areas. We kind of do it all, and we're so proud to be a part of your community of Armstrong and a part of this whole Greenways. And thank you very much for being here today. God bless y'all.
Following the state director's comments, we sat down with Don to learn more on the importance of this connection to American history.
Well, we're really excited because the Florida Park Service, not only are we in charge of the environment inside of a state park, but also the cultural of Florida, historic sites. And in Armstrong, being a Gullah Geechee community, to being able to connect, it is terrific. You know, the trail is going to go to St. Augustine, which is where Fort Mose once stood, that we have a state park there, which is an amazing site of African American history in Florida. And the African American has played such a role in Florida history, and a lot of people aren't totally aware of that. Yeah, sure, they're aware of it a little bit, but it is so exciting, and I invite everyone to really get involved and understand all aspects of your history as a Floridian.
How do people like ourselves create the opportunity to share in the telling of folklore?
It really is folklore. It's folks, it's people. When people tell another story to people, it comes alive. And sure, it changes a little bit after each telling of it, but that also is some of the excitement. I know that our success in the Florida State Parks is that we're genuine and authentic. And the trail that's coming through Armstrong, we don't want to change Armstrong, and hopefully Armstrong will not change as it is culturally, but it will change economically perhaps, and have a better value and a better opportunity for the citizens of Armstrong.
Do you know how many people ride on this trail on a daily basis?
You know, right now it's so preliminary because it's just a segment. The longer the trail, there's more activity on it. So once it is established, there's going to be a lot of folks coming through Armstrong, and it really is exciting.
What is the importance of this Armstrong connection to the other 70 miles of bike trail?
Well, you know, that's really the economic part of this trail. We have learned that the longer the trail system, the longer the trail, the more economic benefit to all the communities. You know, you wouldn't think that. It looks like you're going to share the wealth, but actually there's more and more people because it's more of an attraction.
Looking 10 years down the road, what would you like to see this section of Route 207 becoming?
Well, my face is smiling with excitement because I see wonderful things. I see multi-generational families coming and taking walks and experience it. Multicultural the families as well, and they're coming in sharing different experiences. There's park benches along the way that perhaps an elder can sit and tell a story to a young one. There's folks rollerblading and bicycling. There's equestrians that are along the side. And some inner city folks maybe have never seen a horse or touched a horse, and they'll be able to interact with each other. It's really a parade. Trails are really parades that really connect people, connect lives with each other, and enhances all of our lives as Floridians.
Today, St. Johns County is the most prosperous county in the state of Florida. We welcome visitors from far and wide to visit our 42 miles of beaches, and the rest is history. One of St. Johns County's most ardent supporters of the economic impact of the bike trails and the sea communities is Commissioner Cindy Stevenson.
This is a great day for Northeast Florida, for St. Johns County, for Palatka, for Putnam County. We are very excited to be becoming part of the East Coast Greenway. I knew this trail would one day be part of something big, but I had no idea how big. I'm appreciative to visionaries who set out the blueprint in this area, and for people who stood with us even when they saw just a little piece and they thought it was a trail to nowhere. Well, let me tell you, it's a trail to somewhere, because Armstrong is somewhere. We'll just start right there. I'm excited for how well this fits in the mission of helping local economies and entrepreneurship survive and thrive. And I am thankful because there's no community I know that's more deserving than this community. Armstrong, Elkton, Spuds. These are communities that have been left behind by transportation changes over time. And that is exactly how Rails to Trails fits in. My husband is here today, and I'll just take one small moment to say, when you all, some of you, like Herb and Linda Kreider, were working on Florida bicycle tourism, my husband and I were discovering it in the Northeast, and it has been a great pleasure as a county commissioner to help open that agenda for Northeast Florida, because it fits so well. I've seen it work, and I know that it is a good future for our community. Thank you all for being here.
Another ardent supporter of the bike trails is Linda Myers, Putnam County tax collector and chairman of the board of the Greenways and Trails Foundation.
How many people out here today actually use trails? Just a few, right? So this is an easy speech. We know what this is about. I want to say, and those of you who don't know who we are a statewide trails advocacy group. We're the private side of the public-private partnership of the Greenways and Trails organization, which is now located with DEP. And we are delighted to be part of this. Mark mentioned all of the different connections, and you can see them here. And as you see at the bottom of the St. John's to Sea Loop, which this trail is part of, it connects to the Coast to Coast Connector. That has been a 3-year project of saying to our state, ecotourism is just around the corner, just build it and they will come. And this is truly the field of dreams. Build it, and bicyclists, and I see our horse people are here, the horsemen and ladies will be with us. We just have to connect the gaps. So We've just finished connecting the gaps in Central Florida, and we have the opportunity now to move to Northeast Florida and continue these little gaps that Marcus pointed out. There's just a few of them in Northeast Florida to end up with a connected Northeast Florida opportunity. Folks, this is jobs, this is economic development, this is recreation, this is alternative transportation. This is a winner. And you know that, and we are glad to stand with you. And Northeast Florida is the next area of project. Thank you very much.
Travis Hudson is a resident of Elkton, our newly elected state representative and neighbor. He and his family are also looking forward to the extension of the trail.
Thank you guys for coming out. For some of you that don't know, I'm Representative Travis Hudson. I actually represent this area right here. So if you're in Armstrong, Hastings, I'm your state rep. If you've got any questions, complaints, or comments, come get with me, please. I'm so excited to see this program going forward. I don't think, as Commissioner Stevenson is still here, I don't think she got enough recognition. She's been working on this for about 5 or 6 years now. This is her baby, and I'm glad to see that it's actually coming through. And Ms. Peoples, I know you've done a lot of work putting Armstrong on the map here, and this is actually going to be Maine and Maine for Armstrong. Maybe in 2 or 3 years we'll have to lobby our DOT friends for a stoplight with all the traffic we're going to be getting. Real quick, just what Mark has told me, they have counters on this stretch of the trails here, and there's about 300 people that use it a week. He estimates it's actually a lot higher, about 1,000. So in terms of public-private partnerships, we're getting great return on our investment here. So I will continue to fight and fund these programs throughout the county and throughout my district. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
No state transportation project can move from the drawing board to reality without the support of the Florida Department of Transportation. These bike and community projects have been in the works for 10 years. Jordan Green, Florida Department of Transportation, shares his thoughts on this unique project.
Those of you that don't know me, I'm Jordan Green out of our Planning and Environmental Management Office, and with DOT, and Amy Williams is really the one that needs to be thanked. She just snuck in over there, but I told her I was going to recognize her. She was our design project manager, I think, for all of these sections, right, Amy, and the ones continuing on. So Amy's really responsible for getting it on the ground. But just real quickly, we want to thank you all for allowing DOT to be a part of it. You know, it's one of those things, we've been talking about it and hearing about the trail from St. Augustine to Lake City for 10 plus years since I've been involved with it. And so we just appreciate the opportunity to be a part of it. And I guess we can say now that we are on the map, so to speak. So we will continue on with the next phases, and as far as I know, everything is funded in our 5-year work program to get all the way to Palatka, and then we're looking at the phases to continue on beyond that.
You know, there's no silver bullet, but I do think that one of the main things we can do is provide infrastructure, and that would be laying down the sharrows in the travel lanes to identify bicycle pathways, putting in bicycle infrastructure for parking, for secure bicycle parking in good, safe locations. So I think those are some of the 2 important ways, in addition to continue to educate.
So come visit us in St. Johns County, Florida, where we're known for our tourism and culture. Along the journey, discover our past that is rich in American history. Bring your family and bicycle to explore some of the most beautiful bike trails through our rural and agricultural backyards while enjoying nature and the natural cathedrals that exist along these routes. This place will truly take your breath away while you and your family discover the rich history that is St. Augustine.